Okay, Ham and Aleph at a third of the way down. We just quickly started this yesterday. So if the Mavi was less than 10 Fachim, the Kura being above the ground less than 10, which renders the Mavi not rectified and not made permissible. So what do you have to do? You have to turn that Kura into a 10 Tefach Kura. You do that, and then you Lasar, and then you obviously dig down into the ground to lengthen the distance between the ground and the Korah. Kama chokek, how much you have to dig down? Same reaction. Kama chokek, kama detzorchle. How much you dig down? How much you have to dig down? Let's just make the measurement and figure out when it's above 10 tfachim. Elamoshel b'chav. No, we mean digging in. How? Not digging down. Of course, you have to dig down the distance of when it's going to be 10, but then how far in do you have to dig to extend that digging into the Mavi? How far do you have to extend? Rav Yosef Amar Bi'arba'at Fachim, Abai Amar B'Arba Amos. We have machlokes between Abai and Rav Yosef again, between 4 Tfachim and 4 Amos. So we're now going to try to figure out the underpinnings of the issue. So Lema B'd Rabbi Ami V'Ravasi Kamifili. What? Yeah, true. Very big difference. Let's see what they're arguing about. So, well, we did have this reference before about the size of a minimum size of a mavi. We had these exact same two numbers earlier. So, Lema b'Rav Ami Rav Asi kamifili di'itmar. So, let's say that they argue about this principle that both Rav Ami and Rav Asi, who generally are adversaries here, they're unified in one unified position. What is that? Ditmar, we learned earlier. Mavi shnifratz mitzidai, klape roishay. If you have a mavi that at the very end of the mavi, right where you're about to walk out of the mavi into Wilshire Boulevard, so, and again, an alleyway typically is viewed as it's a U, with the opening of the U being to the Rishus Harabim, being to Wilshire, and of course you rectify that opening by a lechi or a korah, one of the two. So mavi, and then, but in this particular case, the problem is that the wall that led up to Wilshire became breached at the very end of it, very close to the entranceway. The wall fell down, and now you have an opening in that wall. So what do you do? If anything, what do you have to do? Ditmar mavi shifratz mitzidoi klape roishoi. The side of a mavi close to the very end, the head of the mavi, so to speak, where it's about to enter into Rishus Harabim, breaches and breaks, and some of the wall falls down. Itma mishvei Rav Ami Rav Asi. It was said in the name of these two great Amoraim, Em yesh sham pas dalid. If you have a 4 tefach length wall at the very end of the mavi, then the fact that there is a pirza will not bother me. The fact that there's a break, as long as you have 4 tefachim, legitimizes the mavi ad eser. As long as a break is not more than 10 amas. So a breach of a wall, we know this is a basic rule that if a breach is more than 10 amas, that's too big of a breach to look at it as just simply an opening in the wall. It pretty much separates the two walls into just a completely open area. That's obviously not acceptable. But if it's less than 10 amas, and you have 4 tfachim to get you going as a valid mavi in the first place, then everything is good. V'im yesham pas dalit. One second, one more time. But if you don't have 4 tfachim to get you going, okay, then you have to go the other way. It says, but if you don't have that, see if the breach is less than 3, then again, less than 3, using the principle of lavud, allows us to just sort of ignore that small breach. It's a small breach less than 3 tfachim. It connects. So, the end of the wall will connect with the other side of the wall. And even though you have a breach in the middle, less than 3 tfachim doesn't bother me. However, shleisha einamata. Once you have 3, and you don't have 4 to get you going, so you can't use lavud to connect the wall, you have a breach of more than 3 tfachim, which is going to be a a problem because you don't have 4 tfachim to legitimize the entranceway as being a valid mavi in its own right. So l'chayra, right? This what the lumdus sounds like that. Basically, the whole idea is that if you have a legitimate mavi at the entranceway, namely 4 by 4 with the lechi, so that is the minimum shear of at least what you need. Sounds like 4 tfachim is the minimum shear. Okay, and more than that you don't need. So Rav Yosef Islay Dervami and Ravasi. So l'chayra, what we're proposing now is that Rav Yosef, who holds a minimum share of a mavi, is 4 tfachim, adopts a position of Ravami Ravasi, because exactly what they seem to be saying. That if you can start with a solid mavi, the fact that there's a breach later on, you let that go, and you basically use the rest of the mavi, to sort of piggyback on the legitimate mavi you have at the very entranceway. And the less than 10 tfachim, the less than 10 amma breach doesn't bother me. He says, Rav Yosef Islay Dervami, Labai Lesay Dervami. But if a bayu holds a minimum share is 4 ammas, so you'd have to, if you want to use the same lumdis in Abaya's world, if you need to get a legitimate mavi going to allow the rest of the mavi to be valid, then you'd have to have a 4 amma entranceway of space of wall, right? This is the opening, so you have the lechi right here. So you'd have to have 4 ammas going this way. That makes this area legitimate mavi, and the rest you can matter. But the halacha seems Rami Ravasi, you don't talk about 4 ammas; they talk about 4 tfachim. Seems to be you're in the world of Rav Yosef, not in the world of Abaye, to which Abaye answers back, not so fast. I don't pigeonhole me, even though, again, these are all Amoraim, so it wouldn't be the end of the world if Abaye would end up arguing with Rav Ravasi. However, Abaye comes back and says, Amul Abaye hosam seif mavui. Okay? Hachat chilas mavui. There, it's a mavi that was validated at one point. It was a valid mavi, now became breached. Okay, so the question is, what can we do to rejuvenate this mavi to be a valid mavi? So that requires only 4 tfachim. When I said 4 ammas, I'm talking about how do you build a mavi in the first place? In the first place, you want to get it off the ground. You need 4 ammas to get it off the ground. But once it's valid, then we know that already the rules of engagement are different in that situation, and that would require, if it's already off the ground, it would be valid 4 tfachim. If it's not yet off the ground, you want to start it fresh. If you have 4 ammas, yes. If you don't, ika arba ammas in iloi loi. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis here. We did Moshcho yesterday, Rav Yosef. Okay, I don't think we did that one. Rav Yosef the boy el tefach hocha bayarbo. Rav Yosef. Okay, let's just do it. So Rav Yosef, who said earlier, we're talking about the height, right? And talking about when you have to raise the ground, said earlier you only need a tefach. Here requires 4. Dasam the isel dolphin. There where you had legitimate walls, because what was the problem there? The problem is that was too high, right? Yesterday's the core was too high. Now the core is too low. Well, if the core is too low and the walls are too low, walls that are too low are not walls. Walls that are 9 tefachim walls are not walls. So there you've got a much more fundamental issue in this case than you had in the earlier case. So one more time, Rav Yosef el tefach here he needs 4 tefachim as opposed to the 1 tefach of the raise of the floor. Because here when you have walls, when you had walls, there you're just coming to lessen it for the recognition to make it with an eyesight. Any type of hecker will be good enough to lessen it. That would be fine. That's why only tefach is necessary. As we said, remember the tefach underneath the korah, and he said you can carry in the korah the whole sugya from yesterday. However, but here when now you're making the walls into walls, so a mavi with no walls is not a mavi. So you have to you're literally starting from fresh, and you have to legitimize those walls by making them 10. So you're going to need a lot more than just a tefach to get these walls validated. So Bein Rav Yosef, Bein Labaya, Bein on the Lischaze, Haidof and Lashir, Hechshir Orach, Mavi, Shalem. You need these walls to cover the shear of a valid Mavi, the minimum shear of a Mavi. You might not need it all the way, but you at least need to have an amount that would, under normal circumstances, be the minimum shear of a Mavi. And certainly, we know that a tefach is not the minimum shear of a Mavi. You got to get these walls raised. In order to get them raised, you need either 4 tefachim according to Rav Yosef or 4 amas according to Abaye. Hilkach Rav Yosef shir meshech mavi b'dal tefachim. Okay, therefore that's a shear of Yosef because that's a minimum shear of a mavi. Abaye is really shir meshech mavi b'dal amas, and Abaye holds no, it's 4 amas.
When you say raised, you say the wall's got to go vertical or horizontal.
You have to have 10 tefach high walls to be valid, to be called a valid wall.
Right.
So when you have the floor, when the korah is too low, right, and the typical case would be that the walls line up with the korah. That means your walls are 9 tefachim high. I mean, you don't have walls. So it means you're starting fresh over here, as opposed to the case where it was too high, your walls were valid. The only problem is the korah was too high. So you have to just adjust the korah, because you had a valid structure of an alleyway. Here you don't even have an alleyway yet, because you don't have walls in the alleyway. So you have to create the validity here, as opposed to already having it in the earlier case, and that's why it's a different amount. Okay, so Luchara they argue with Ravami. Luchara Abaye argues with Ravami Ravasi. Why? What's the case? Shifra Mitzidai next Rashi. Echem Shabitzidai Orchoi Shabitzad Orchoi. One of the walls on the sides of the Mavi, in the sides of the U, Klape Roshei. Okay, near the end, Samach Luchara Hemeno Lefnim, close to the beam. From it inside, like you have literally in the nice little diagram on the side, you see the breach. Okay, im yesham pas dalid im nishtayim min akaisel. If what remains from the wall is an extension of 4, ayasa pas dalid makom pirza, or you made or you built. You had some, you had the Geberta come by, and he built you he fixed up the wall, so the sides of the U no longer have a big breach between the entranceway and the rest of the wall. You now have he built a nice 4 tefachim dika wall so it doesn't really matter whether it remained from the original breach or whether it was just added right now. So close to the beam, you're good to go. However, okay, mater pirza, then if you have that 4 tefachim wall extending from the korah, then even if the breach now is much more than 4 tefachim or even more than 4 amas, as long as it's not 10 amas, you're good to go. Mata pirza afagav shenishtai shamadayim pirza ad eser. Even though you have a breach that up to 10 amas, the kivin the yeshech she'orach mavi min akura ad pirza, since there is a valid mavi area between the breach and the end of the mavi, so you got a valid mavi going before you hit the breach. Pesach mikama. Okay, it does not nullify the entranceway that's still valid because of the fact that you have a mavi within this framework. And it stands in its initial position of being a valid mavi. The karaso matiraso, the korah indeed matters that area. The 4 tefachim that opposite the 4 tefachim with the korah is a valid mavi. Or pirtzani teres, and the entire breach and onwards that remains are all sort of in a sense subservient to the validity of the mavi of that 4 tefach by 4 tefach area. Kin delav yoisem eser, because since it's not more than 10 amas. Taurus Pesach it has still, at the end of the day, as a status of an opening, not a status of 2 distinct walls. And just because you have a lot of openings in a mavi, or if you had an alleyway, and in that alleyway there are tons of different openings, as long as those openings are not more than 10 amos, they are valid, as long as they end up with a valid korah down at the end of the way, that would be okay. The fact that there are many openings in walls, that does not bother us, as long as there's more closed area than there is open area. Vinami shavke b'nei mavi pischa kama. And even let's say, isn't there a big problem? What happens if people start using these side openings to go out? They're not going to use the main entryway or entrance. So if they're not going to use the main entrance, they're not going to notice the korah, and the whole purpose of what a mavi is about is not going to be fulfilled. They're going to go out using these other openings because it's a shortcut, hilahem, right? So it's a big shortcut. So why would that still be valid? It still does not negate the validity and the status of that opening and that korah from the first opening, the main opening. Because you had four. Okay, because you have those four tfachim wall right close to the korah. That area becomes a valid mavi in its own right. Since four tfachim of length requires and is validated by a beam, a cross beam going across, it has a hekshemavi. It has a validity, the status of being a kosher mavi. So four tfachim clearly. Rav Ami Ravasi's message is that once you have a valid mavi at the entranceway, the rest can be sort of ayev. Although some people take shortcuts, but the main thing is still here. The main thing is still at the end of the alleyway is that opening, and that's the main opening. People are going to take shortcuts. You can't do anything about it. It does not negate the validity of the mavi. However, v'im lav, dein sham pas dal b'yon. If you don't have that length of four tfachim to validate that particular area right by that beam, then it's not going to work. When will it work? Pachas begimel. If it's less than 3, ima pirza pachusim begimel. If the opening is less than 3 tfachim, well then mater tikkun amavi as amavi. Then in that case you'll have no problem. Then the korah with the wall will validate the rest of the mavi. Why? What about the opening? Because it's like it's closed. So even though you have a break, let's say you have the beam, you have the walls coming out, let's say, 3 tefachim, then you have a little breach of 1 tefach, then you have the wall continuing. It's a big deal. We close up that breach of 1 tefach, kalavud, like the wall continues. It's a long, beautiful wall. It's like we don't even see the opening. That's the magic of lavud. You don't see the pirza, and everything is good. Of ein kan pirza vim hip pirza gimel, but once that pirza reaches the 3 tfachim threshold, ein mater. That then you've blown your mavi. Kiva the maitina b'nei mavi bihiluchan, because since the people of the mavi have now. It's been their ability to walk has been diminished. They're going to shorten their way to go out through that opening. We're afraid that they're going to not use the main opening. They're going to use the smaller opening on the side. Okay, that will nullify the original opening, nullify the korah that's hanging over that opening, then and that's not it. It will now then be not a korah for this mavi. It's like a distinct area. Everyone's coming out the short way. Since you don't have enough to get this going, you need to use it to get it going. If you have the shear, it's choshev in its own right, in which case you don't have to get it going. But here, if you don't have 4 yet to validate it, you need the usage of it to validate it. You might not have it because everyone's going to take the route on the side. And we're going to get into this reasoning later on in the parak who will explain this concept. So, if Rav Ami Ravasi clearly state that the criteria for validating this breach in the wall is having a 4 tefach mavli at the entranceway to get it going, must be Vabai, let's say Rav Ami Ravasi. The Charabai does not agree. He says you need 4 amas to get it going. You should use the same criteria, the same rules should be. We should adopt Rav Ami Ravasi would say you need 4 amas of a wall to get it going, to validate it, and yet all they need is 4 tefachim. Clearly, they seem to argue with Rav Ami. Abai seems to argue with Rav Ami Ravasi. Okay, which is again not devastating, but certainly not something that Abai would prefer. So what are we going to do here? So he's going to say Abai comes back and says you're mixing up apples and oranges. You're mixing up a sof mavi with a tchilas mavi. Rashi, Sof Mavi, you're going Hadr of Ami Ravasi, Shikavar Hoya Mavi, it already was a Mavi. Vir Psol, and you now have this problem with this breach. He grants that to rejuvenate a once valid mavi to a status of being okay, 4 tfachim is going to be good enough to get it back to where it needs to be. On the other hand, when it's chilas mavi, going to be chakak, like the case of the walls that were lowered, where now you're going to make it into a mavi, there's no way you're going to validate it less than 4 amis, and I maintain that Rav Ami Ravasi would agree with that. So I have no problem with Rav Ami Ravasi. Okay, so the machlokes still stands, and now let's see if we can prove this very fundamental issue. What is a minimum shear? That's where we're at right now. What is a minimum shear of a mavi? To get to allow people to walk through their, again, what is a mavi? We're going to just about to learn this again, so just to get it straight, a mavi is an alleyway that allows people to go from their houses into the chutzner. The chutzner then opens up into the alleyway, which allows you to go out to Wilshire Boulevard and to any other Rishus Harabim. So in order to create this mavi with the crossbeam or the lechi, to validate you carrying, I mean, again, you're not going to carry out into Wilshire, but eventually, I mean, that's where it opens to Wilshire, but you're only allowed to carry in that mavi. That mavi needs to be at least 4 amis according to Abaye, and at least 4 tfachim according to Rav Yosef. So now, let's go back to the Gemara. So Amar Abaye. So Abaye says, by the little dot there, at least in my Gemara, slightly below the middle of the page, Amar Abaye, how do I know that I'm right, that the minimum shear of a mavi is dalat amis? It's tiny, because it says in the Brisa, ein mavi nita b'lechi v'kora, a mavi will not become a valid, legitimate mavi with either a post or a crossbeam. Okay, ad shu batim v'chatzeres pesuch l'tocho. And we had this concept earlier, even in Shabbos. You need to have 2 houses and 2 chatzeros functioning within that, using that mavi. So you can't have almost like a private mavi. It doesn't work. If you have your own house, to your own chatzer, to your own mavi, that's not a mavi. Mavi needs 2 chatzeros, and each chatzer needs at least 2 houses. Now, it's simple math. V'bedalid, if you're going to have a mavi valid with 4 tfachim, and every entranceway of a chutzner needs to have 4 tfachim to enter into that area, how in the world are you going to have a chutzner that is clearly delineated as a chutzner, open, which means that opening of the chutzner to the mavi needs to be 4 tfachim. If the entire mavi is 4 tfachim, it's going to be one big open space. You need to have a structure of the door frame to be able to at least call it an opening, and that's going to negate from the 4 tfachim, and you're going to have less than 4 tfachim of functional space. That's going to be a problem. So it just logistically doesn't seem to work. How in the world do you have such a small mavi that would be able to be utilized by 2 different opposite chatzeros? Each chatzer would an entranceway of a minimum of 4, because as we said before, if the entranceway is not at least 4, that's not called an entranceway. A doorway needs to be at least 4 tfachim. So if 4 tfachim is everything, every shear is 4 tfachim, you got just total opening in every direction. What are you doing? There's no clearly delineated markings. Okay, and the diagrams there are quite good there, and the article, he does a good job. Let's take a look. Let's go weiter. So one more time. Ein mavinita belechi v'kor achi batim v'chatzer psuch l'socho. V'bedalid, if you're going to tell me dalid tfachim is good enough, heichem mishkach, how are you going to find it? There's going to be no room to be able to separate and to delineate the chatzer from the mavi. V'chitem in the pasach l'bedofen amsoi. Maybe you're going to tell me that there is a side wall that allows you to. That the middle wall is the opening, and you're sort of going to have to use the back wall as your entranceway, and basically you have to sort of concoct. And he shows you very clearly that basically if you have the mavui wider than you have it longer, right, and therefore now it's that would be the theoretical way that you would work out this situation where you can have 2 openings to the mavui, okay, of 4, each one of 4 tfachim, because the length, it looks like now like a T. So in other words, the mavi is running this way, I guess, right to left, and then as opposed to straight ahead, and then so to the back wall is only 4 tfachim, but the length allows you to get in there and create 2 opens of 4 tfachim each. But it's not the conventional type of mavi. So if you're going to tell me you want to use sort of the back wall of the mavi to create your openings, and that's how you access from the house to the chutzner to the mavi. Okay, you can't have that kind of mavi, because what you're doing is you're sort of changing the structure of a mavi. The mavi generally is that you open to the sides of the mavi, not to the back of the mavi. He says, Rav Nachman says very clearly, what kind of mavi will be validated by a post and a beam? You need the length to be longer than the width. You have to have a house and a chutzner open to it. So if you want to reconstruct the mavi like the diagram shows you, okay, what you have there is that the length of the mavi, which means from Rishus Harabim to the end of the mavi, let's say it would only be 4 tfachim, right? So you keep that shear. But it's so long that allows people to walk in through the back, right? That's where you're sort of walking to. That's not legitimate. That doesn't work. You have to have the width of the mavi narrower than the length of the mavi. And in this case, the width is wider than the length. So it doesn't fit into Rav Nachman's view of what a valid mavi is all about. Okay, right in our Gemaras, in the conventional Gemaras, we don't have this diagram that he has there in the art scroll. So, okay. So I guess...
it's just basically a enclosed area, isn't it?
Well, but it has rules. Obviously, it's not just an enclosed area. It has specific rules where
you said earlier it had to be a minimum of, 4x4?
Well, that's the machlokas right now. Either 4 tfachim or 4 amas.
No, not the openings. I'm talking about the ground itself that is enclosed.
Yeah, that's where we're at. We're at that ground itself that it covers on the length. I mean, this is a perfect mavi area, right? The Gemara is the mavi. So you're coming in from here. So this has to be either 4 tfachim or 4 amas, so depending on Rav Yosef and Abaye. So the question is, if you're going to have the mavi end at 4 tfachim, and you need 2 openings of 4 tfachim to come from the house, from the chutzah to the mavi, it's all open. Because if you have posts, that's going to automatically lessen.
4 tfachim isn't enough room for you to get through into,
Well, I guess there is. In other words, I guess you're right. It's not a big space, but it's enough for people to, to get out of there. If you imagine a very small little chutzner. Yeah, 4 tfachim is enough to maneuver, but not if your entire mavi is 4 tfachim deep.
Right.
But if you want to, and the Gemara's having is if you want to change your configuration and use it's a very short mavi, but the entranceway comes on the side, right, where it's longer, where it's wider than it is longer. You can't have a mavi wider than it is longer. That doesn't work. You have to have the length more than the width. So, but it sounds like Abaye has Rav Yosef up against the wall. Okay, no pun intended. That how do you validate such a mavi? To which, let's just read the answer of the Gemara, and then we'll do the Rashi. He says, Rav Yosef, right, so you can't, if you try to finagle with a different kind of diagram and a different type of structure of a mavi, Rav Nachman throws it out the window and says that's not a valid mavi. So the answer is, Rav Yosef, the pasuk le b'keren zav. Rav Yosef will answer, that's true, you have to have the length be longer than the width, but if you have the entranceway at the corners, then you can do that. And here you have the nice diagram of Rashi, okay, which that I have. I assume you have the same one over there in your Gemara. Is where if you come in, right, it's all measured dalet tfachim, and if you open up the sides, then taka it works, because you'll have 4 tfachim as a legitimate opening coming through the catty corner, right, through the diagonal area, and the korah is over 4 tfachim, so it's wide. It's 4 tfachim long, right, and everything is good to go, and that would be, so it's an interesting structure, but that would technically work. And now you're coming, the length it needs where it needs to be. It's 4 tfachim. You're coming in through the corners. You're not redistributing the length versus the width in a way where Rav Nachman would say it doesn't work, and that would actually be a case where you'd have two batim open to one chutzner each, two chatzeres from both sides, coming in from the two different corners, and you're good to go. So Rav Yosef can wiggle out of this problem, and Rav Abai has no proof. Let's catch up on the Rashis. Batim v'chatzeros, right above that diagram there. Batim v'chatzeros, batim psuchen l'chatzeros, you have to have two houses open to the chatzer, v'chatzeros amavi. And the chatzer needs to be open to the mavi, shekein ha'yedarkon, because that was the way. She'ein batim psuchen elo l'chatzreim, because that the homes were, in those days, homes were only open to their courtyards. It isn't like you can access the house from the street like we do today. It's like a courtyard, like many of the, there are homes, a lot of apartment structures like that. In order to get to the apartment, you have to first go through the courtyard, and then that opens up to all the apartments. He says, like on Cortina, you have a lot of those. He says, every chutzner that is dealing with that expression chutzner is always in front of the house. We had this before. When it's behind the house, it ain't called a chutzner. We call our yards our backyards. But in the Torah, in the Gemara vernacular, the backyard was not called a chutzner. The backyard was called either a muksa, muksa or rechava currently. It's called either muksa or rechava. That's good to remember for a final Jeopardy question. Okay, it says Vi Amrit B'Dalid Have. And if you're going to tell me that it's Dalid, Mavui Heich Nitib Orach Arba. How in the world is the Mavi going to be acceptable with a 4 tefach opening? Michdi Miyud Chatzer Shtayim. Let's just take a look. I mean, do the math. The minimum Chatzeres are 2. You can't have an opening, an entranceway, a doorway less than 4 tefachim. It's a minimum share of an entranceway. Veich Yif Sach. How do you have a 4 tefach opening to an area that itself is only 4? You'd have to have a complete. It's open. It's got to be open space, because the minute you start having posts to delineate the opening, you're lessening from the 4. He says, "Ayim mokom hapsimin." Where's the side posts? The old kula pertzu, and essentially it's all going to be open. You're not going to have any structure that sort of separates one area from the other, and that you can't have that. It can't be just one big open mall kind of feel to it. That doesn't work. V'chite, maybe you want to wiggle with a different construction. V'chite, but the pasuk lebedofim says you want to use the back wall, which is now you want to widen or lengthen the back, the mavi this way, to make the back wall only 4 tefachim away, make it so wide this way, and then you can have the 2 entrances coming in from that back wall. Doesn't work. He says, "V'chi kamar, v'chi tem the puzzle is bedofim sois, v'chi kamar of Yosef echshem mavi ba'orach dalid." Maybe you're going to tell me that Rav Yosef is talking about a hechsher with the length of dalid, b'mavi rochav mot, which is very wide. So Taka, if you go to the back wall, you come off Fulshire, you literally have 4 tefachim till you hit the wall, and then you're done. The mavi's over. It's a short mavi, which is Rav Yosef says is legit. It's 4 tefachim. But when you go sideways, it's much wider. So you want to do that, and that's where you want to get your entrances to come in to the mavi. It's a nice chap. It's an ingenious chap. However, where it's very wide, kamar v'yochol liftoach pesach chatzeros bedofin shamachurav, and you want to open up the doorways of the chatzeros on the side, on the back walls, right? Which is what this idea is about. Can't be. I've Amr of Nachman Aktinon Niketina Mesiris Me'avasenu Minog Me'avasenu. We have a Messiah and a Minog from our ancestors down through the generations about the Din Mavi. It's very, very clear. Orcho yesu al rochvo. You have to have the length towards the back of the mavi longer than the width. Heavy mavi. That's when it's a valid mavi. V'nita b'lechi v'kura. That's when it'll be validated with a post or a beam. Avam ruva. But if it's exact squared, then chatzolov. I'm sorry, that's not called a mavi if it's square, or certainly if it's wider. It's the width is longer than the length being going straight ahead forward. That for sure is not going to work. Even a square is not going to work. Because that's not a mavi. That's called a chutzner. V'amrinon lekamon chotzer tzricha pas dalid or pas mashu mikan or pas mashu mikan. Okay, as we're going to learn later on, that a chotzer requires a 4 amma or pas mashu mikan plus another mashu or pas mashu mikan. If it's open at the end, I guess you need two, in other words, it's not enough to have one lechi or one kar. You need two. You need a real Tzuras HaPesach type of situation. The kivin the amrit. When it's totally open to Rosh Hashanah, you have such a kind of square situation. It's not going to be validated with the typical rules of a mavi, which is either one korah or one lechi. The kivin amrit orcha dalid kosher. Now, since you told me the length of 4 tfachim, you Rav Yosef hold is valid. Harichava dalid chosamashu. You have to have the width less, a tiny bit less than 4, right? Because we just finished saying that it can't be a square. And it certainly can't be wider on that side. So if you're walking 4 tefachim this way, this distance as you walk in has got to be slightly less than 4. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Rav Nachman will throw that mavi out and tell you that it's not a mavi, it's a chutzner, and requires a different way of rectifying it, which we'll get to later on. Yeah, 1 second. So the width has to be slightly less than 4. Vein sham shir pesach, and there is no shir pesach if you have less than 4. The bekulei hach mesechtam rinon de ein pachas pesach pachas medalit. It's a fundamental rule that we'll have throughout this pesach that you can't be called an opening less than 4. So 4 tefachim. 4 tefachim is the minimum shear of an opening, and if you don't have 4 tefachim, that's not called a doorway. It's not called a valid opening to be able to walk through and be called a pesach of a chutzner to a mavi. You have to have the chutzner, a pesach to from the chutzner to the mavi, and there's basically not enough space to make this all happen. And if you try to use this new configuration, it's not gonna work. So the Gemara says you're right, that's not going to work. But Bekeren Zavis, next to the last Rashi on the page, Bekeren Zavis tefach min ha pesach bedofen amsoi, v'gimel tfachim bedofen ameshach. You can have 3 tfachim. Let's say tefach min ha pesach bedofen amsoi. You have 1 tefach of the back wall. B'dofen soi, you have a tefach of the wall, and I guess of the back middle wall. V'gimel tefachim b'dofen hameshach, and 3 walls, 3 tefachim b'dofen with the wall that continues. V'chein b'tzido hasheni kizeh. So but the opening is 1 second. So you have 1 tefach, and then you have 3 tefachim, I guess, as the angle. I guess that's what he means. In other words, the 3 tefachim goes an angle to where the daled, if you're looking at the diagram on the right side, so you have 1 tefach in, then you have 3 tefachim coming at an angle, and that gives you 4. I guess that's meaning it goes at a diagonal. And so to the other side, like the diagram. Okay, so basically, and then that entire opening, in other words, you have a wall there, I guess you can go in through that. There is an opening of 4 tfachim to, that's what's bothering me. If it's an opening, maybe it's a doorway. I mean, it's not really a wall. The wall doesn't really extend all 4, because the whole diagonal is where the Pesach comes in from the chutzner. I guess he still calls that a wall, because
3 or less, it closes itself.
No, but it's not. It's not. You need the 4. It's not 3 or less. In other words, the diagonal wall is really an opening. That's how you get through from the side, right? Because that was the whole question. How do you have an opening of 4? So Rashi explains, shows the diagram. The 4 is the diagonal, is the 4 tfachim of the Pesach, and you have a structure of a where the width, the length is longer than the width. So you have the rules of Rav Nachman, and you come in through the side, through the diagonal. But I just don't know why he calls it a wall. When it's an opening, it's just because it's an opening doesn't mean it can't close. In other words, you have like any door, right? This is a wall. This wall is whatever it is. Let's call it 10 tefachim. There's a lot more. And then you have the doors that open, so you can open through the 4 tefach opening, but doesn't mean it's not a wall. I guess that's what he means, because I guess I was picturing a wide open space. But turns it's not wide open. It's closed, except that you have an opening that when you have 4 tefachim, you can open the door and leaves you 4 tefachim, and then you're good to go. Okay, I'll pick this up tomorrow. Shkayach.